We are live. Gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Mecca of Banter podcast. I am this week's host, Henry Wind. You can find me on Twitter at Henry Wind. It's a great week to be a Manchester United fan. I'll get it out of the way early. We'll revisit it halfway through the episode, and we'll forget that I said it by the end of the episode. So we're here. And gentlemen, we have a great episode for everyone today. And we have a very special guest. We'll get to him in a second. But let's check in with the fellas. Connor Sindobri, how are you doing today, brother?
What's going on, fellas? I'm happy to be here. It's been a tough weekend. Both of the teams I support have zero identity and zero style of play. So we're here, though. Bielefeld did ties, so that's another positive result for my direction. Flan, it's good to see you. Good to have you here. Excited for this one, I guess I could say. At least the banter is going to be a little bit between Chelsea and Liverpool to take the heat off United. But,
yeah.
I'm willing to take it this week. So good to see you, fellas.
I dig it. Thanks for being here. Lucas Winkleman, check in, brother.
What's up, boys? It's good to be here.
This is getting old.
Yeah. Hen, I respect you wearing the Barcelona kit after. So Henry and I watched both of those games at the same time on Saturday, and only one of his teams, like you said, or I guess rather like Dobe said, had an identity. So glad you're wearing that. But no, I agree. I feel like, with the Carabao Cup final this weekend, there wasn't a whole lot of Prem games between us. So excited to hopefully dive a little bit deeper into the games that did happen, including the mighty Arsenal. Yeah,
inclusive of that, we'll talk about a massive Champions League fixture, massive, choosing the opposition of choice of FC Porto. So we'll dig into that. Andy Hoover, check in. These are my favorite episodes when Hoover doesn't have to talk about Spurs, but he just gets to stir the pot. So how are you doing today, man?
I'm full of hot takes today, lads. I'm doing good. Happy to be here. Only one of my teams disappointed me this week. The other one didn't even have the chance. I'm happy about it. I got to watch the football matches that mattered this weekend for sure, and I do have some takes, 100%. So looking forward to it. Let's get into it.
Excited to have you. Nick Hayflinger on the losing side of the Carabao Cup. But check in first. How we doing?
Definitely have had better days. Not going to lie about that. But watching Chelsea in a cup final, I didn't think would be that way this year. So that was definitely fun to see. Even if it was on the short end of the stick. But yeah, definitely here for some banter and love to talk about it. I'm happy that Mr. Flan, someone from our group chat, was bold enough to take our offer of joining our podcast after getting into a little bit of an argument. So I'm pumped to have him on.
And last but not least, for the first time ever, we have the Liverpool lads, plural. Butchie, you're not alone this week, but we'll start off with you. How are you feeling? Welcome back to the pod, my friend.
I'm doing okay, man. Hanging in there. Girls soccer started today, so my season's back on the grind. I'm ready to go back on the field, start coaching. And obviously after seeing Klopp and the boys sing "You'll Never Walk Alone" yesterday after a 1-0 win, it was a fantastic feeling. I'm sure Flans can go on that when we introduce him. But another trophy to Klopp's trophy cabinet.
Gag me.
Life is good.
And last but certainly not least, the man himself, Mr. Flannery. Welcome to the pod, brother. Check in for the people. Tell them who you are and, introduce yourself.
Thank y'all for having me. Glad to be here. For those who don't know me, Brian Flannery. They call me Flan the Man, a.k.a. Flans, a.k.a. Flan Bobby. I got a couple names out there. You can find me B-Flans on all socials, though, if you really want to get after me. But, yeah, longtime Liverpool supporter, as in my whole life. It's religion for my family. Sundays are not church. It's the Prem. So whole family is Liverpool supporters. Born and raised, and yesterday coming off a big high, lifting another trophy, all kinds of emotions. Klopp said it was his most meaningful trophy yet, which in a guy who's coached for that many years, I think is impressive. So yeah, I'm riding high, man. Monday was easy. Glad to be here.
Happy to have you, brother. Well, fellows, if you did or did not know, 2024 is here in full swing, and that means it's time for a New Year's resolution check-in with our friends at Manscaped. And newsflash, it's never too late to level up your grooming game and keep your bush tamed. Manscaped's new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is every man's cheat code to look good, feel good, and turn the page on confidence this year. Whether you're going for a trim or that clean-shaven look, this trimmer has you covered. Trusted by over 10 million men worldwide, now is your time to get a grip on your grooming with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com and use code MECCA20, that is MECCA, MECCA 20, for 20% off and free shipping. The ball has dropped, but don't drop the ball on your balls. Gentlemen, every time we get to talk about Manscaped, I'm stoked. So shout out
promo.
Manscaped.
Love it.
Yeah, sponsoring the pod this episode. But let's jump into the weekend recap. It's a short one. It's a really short one. As you know, 3 of the teams on this pod didn't play due to the Carabao Cup final. But Connor, we got to start off with Manchester United's loss to Fulham at home. It was a 2-1 loss for the lads. I want to hear your thoughts. What went wrong, and where do you stand now that you've had a couple of days to sink it in?
First off, I made it to what's today's date, February 26th in 2024, before being just absolutely pissed off with United. You know, we started off 2024 undefeated. Going into Fulham, obviously the missing of Højlund and Luke Shaw is massive. But at the same time, it's Manchester United at home. Like we're playing at home, and I've said this how many times in a row, I'm going to sound like a broken record, that at the end of the day, the win or loss doesn't necessarily matter to me. It's more so, what does the performance look like? Can we command a game? Can we command the ball? And especially at home. Like to me, it's one of those things, you go on the road, you play at tough places. You may want to give up a little bit of the ball a little bit of times and play on the counterattack. But to me, this game was, you know, the games that we won beforehand, all the ground that we caught up on top 4 in the 5th place spot that's going to be important, doesn't matter unless you beat Fulham. Like it truthfully doesn't, because instantly we saw Aston Villa take 3 points, get a win, and all of a sudden that gap to 4th is back. And so when you look at the game as a whole, like firstly, starting at the lineup, we saw Forson, 19-year-old, come into the 11 with Rashford up top. And like instantly, I think all of us know how bad Marcus Rashford is at playing as a number 9.
Locked that in, yeah.
Like it's never, ever, ever, ever worked with him as a 9. And I said it before the game, and you guys may think I'm crazy. Like I think we should have played Scotty as a 9. Like I think we should have played Scotty as 9. As crazy as it sounds, we have Rashford, who's finding some decent form out left, and Garnacho, who's been electric out right. And the fact that we instantly put Rashford up top just changed that dynamic completely. But yeah, I mean, you have to give credit to Fulham in this game. Like Fulham 100% deserved to win. Like we scored a goal off of kind of nothing. Like it was, like Harry Maguire probably maybe could have scored earlier, should have scored earlier with that just right outside the 6.
Yeah.
But then we did score a goal and get back in the game. And truthfully, if you watch this Manchester United team over the past 2 months, when we score and there's probably 8 minutes left, like we've typically found ways to go on and score and win games. And so I did think that was going to happen. What you did see is just, you saw that when you leave a counter forward and Harry Maguire on a yellow who can't take a foul. And all credit to Traore. Traore came and ate Lindelof's lunch, ate Maguire's lunch, played a great ball into Iwobi, and boom, all of a sudden it's 2-1. But we have nobody else to blame but ourselves. A lot of people are sort of at this point right now where they're trying to blame Ten Hag. I am still firmly, you can't necessarily blame Ten Hag when you have a fourth choice center back playing as a left back. You don't have a healthy striker. It sort of changes the way that you want to play. I do think that the pressure's mounting, though. Like it's mounting, even though we started off undefeated in 2024. The pressure has to be there, just because if you listen to Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the new owner's interview, he sits there and he talks about how there's no manager that's been successful at United in the past decade, and it's not necessarily the manager's fault. But what he also followed that up by saying is that Champions League and playing in Europe is important, not only for just, of course, you want to be in it, but for financial reasons for the club to move forward. And so I think that I don't necessarily want to come out and say that is going to be the benchmark for if he keeps his job or not, especially with injuries. But I do think if we keep sort of this moving backwards in the table, and it sounds crazy because there's the first loss of 2024, but it just shows how much pressure he has on him, that one loss like that, all of a sudden we're 6 points farther than that off of 4th, and all of a sudden the pressure is massive for him. So obviously, I have to give credit to Fulham. We looked like shit complete throughout the entire game. There's a few guys that don't necessarily deserve to be lumped into that. I think like even Maguire played well, Delot played well. I thought Onana did everything that he could in that game. Like there's guys that played well, but as a collective, we still haven't been able to put together. I think that's still my biggest concern is we haven't had a solid performance in 2024. Undefeated, or I guess we're undefeated, but we didn't have a solid performance in that entire time.
Dude, my favorite version of United is the one where Maguire's the best player on the pitch.
Yep. Every
It's
time.
fucking hilarious, bro.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, he has been, and that's what's so funny is people were talking so much shit on him, but now that he doesn't have the pressure of the armband and he doesn't have the
100%.
pressure of being that guy,
Yeah.
he's been solid. Which at the end of the day, what's important is the fact that if he's playing well, we're going to be able to get 45, 50 million for him in the summer. And if he's not playing, I think that's the only positive to Maguire playing well. We can actually
That's very true. Now, Dobes, I'm curious. Like, we got to talk about Bruno. Bruno has been one of the most, it's funny talking to a podcast full of non-United fans. It's like Bruno's probably the biggest bitch in all of the Prem, but you can't deny his output since he's come to the Prem. But for the last, I don't know what, 3-4 months, it has not been there. He doesn't look good. And I know that you're a Bruno Fernandes truther, but give me your thoughts on where Bruno is at the current moment and what needs to happen.
I think one of Bruno's best qualities is his ability to stay on the pitch, and the fact that he's only missed 3 games over the last 5 or 6 years from injury, 3. And the other couple that he's missed is because he's been sick. Like that's a great quality to have. But I do think we're getting to the point where we don't have anybody else that can play in that spot, and he needs a break. He truthfully, you see him overplaying and you see him trying to play this hero ball in moments when you're playing Fulham at home. Just put your foot on the ball. Mm-hmm. Get some combination play going with Casemiro. Get some combination play going with Kobe Mainoo. That's what they're best at. And every moment to where it seems like, all right, we have the ball. We put a couple passes together. We find Bruno. He's one of the best players in the world. I will say it. Ball comes to him, hitting that one-touch long ball and finding a runner behind, finding Rashford, finding Garnacho, finding whoever it may be in terms of that sort of instant counterattack through ball. He might be the best in the world at just that ball. But it doesn't mean you have to try that every single time you get it. And so many times it's just put your foot on the ball. Let's get a foothold in the game and let's ping a little bit. And that is what we have been missing. Kobe Mainoo is great. He's our best player on the ball in the midfield with the ball at his feet. But we use him as sort of a box-to-box midfielder, putting in tackles rather than use him for his best skill set and keeping the ball. And a lot of that starts with Bruno because we do find him in those spots where he's dangerous. But even if you're dangerous, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to play that Hollywood ball. Like you see it with a Kevin De Bruyne, you see it with an Odegaard. There's times where they just put the foot on the ball, they go backwards and they reset and they say, all right, we're going to reset. We're going to keep the ball for a little bit and suck the air out of the game. And it's just Bruno hasn't had that capability over the last month. And in turn, we give the ball right back to Fulham. And Fulham's a team that can keep possession. And then all of a sudden we're defending for 3, 4, 5 minutes again, trying to chase a game. And so he's been killing us.
We talked about it last week, but to a certain degree, there's got to be some instruction there on that. The best chances you guys had from against Luton and here were, those sweeping balls to a quick counter. That's obviously the direction that you have, and we've talked about how many injuries and whatever. That is kind of just the style you need to play at the moment. But that all filters back to Ten Hag for me. It's got to be the mindset that they have. It's got to be the instructions he's been given to a certain degree, or else there would be some interchange. That it just didn't look like ever.
For who?
I don't know. But I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. That, yeah.
At the 10 though?
No, I'm not saying in his position. I'm saying in the game. Rashford can make a couple quick passes and get out on a break. I don't know jack about this forcing cat, but you can do the same with Garnacho. But you know what I mean? There's no sense of slow down. It's pick up and go.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'll play a little bit of devil's advocate. You're saying the injuries mean that you got United has to play this way, right? Because I do agree. It seems like United's way of playing right now is sit a little deeper and then play fast on the break through their pace on the wings, which they have a lot of. But I'll point to Liverpool because we had a lot of injuries. And the thing is, like, we don't compromise the ball that we play when we lose certain guys. Like, we just next man up in the position.
I get that. Yeah.
We play the position. So at what point is it the injuries that is causing United to play this way? And what point is it just Ten Hag just wants to play it this way?
I will say, I do think it's a combination of the two. Like, I will say, I think some of this has to fall back on Ten Hag. Like, I'm by no means saying that there's no blame to be put on him at all. Because like the moment that you see like forcing, it's like kid's 19. Obviously, we want him to have that like Garnacho type impact, that Mano type impact, instantly come in, but like it wasn't working. And I do think there's some of that where you have to recognize like 10, 15 minutes in the game, we're casual soccer fans. Obviously, we're diehard, but we can sit there and watch that. Like, this isn't fucking working. Mm-hmm. And so why not try to slide Forsen as a false nine, Bruno as a false nine, and switch something up? I do think there is some of that to the ability to like in-game adjust and change things. And yes, I think injuries more so play a way that we or affect the way that we play out of the back and play the way that we like where we set our line and like where we set our press. And I also think that some of this is like, you guys have to realize, like when you look at Harry Maguire, like not a Ten Hag signing. When you look at like all of these players around the field, they're not Ten Hag signings.
He had a window, basically.
Yeah. So basically, to me, it's like he's dealing with players that if you look at past managers, like they've been there. Like McTominay is at the club because of Jose Mourinho. Like Jose Mourinho calls him my boy, and he stayed at the club through this. And so I do think part of it is he's trying to. And this is again back on Ten Hag. You have to be able to, like, as any good coach, like Butch will sit there and say the way that we played last year as a Lafayette team is going to be completely different from the way that we're going to have to play this next year based off the personnel we have. And so I think that's what Ten Hag is struggling with massively is how to get the best out of this group because it hasn't worked. He's made attempts at this counterattacking football and it hasn't worked. And so that's why I think the pressure is as big as it is right now. I mean, there's people calling for his head if we lose to Forest this week, which you can't really blame Ineos if that does happen, which I think is unfortunate because I think a proper window and I think proper players, I think we can play a style that, is a pretty brand of soccer and sort of has that United DNA. We just haven't seen that aside from glimpses in forever.
The only reason you have basis on that too is because he did do it at Ajax. Like we've seen it. There's evidence, there's clips, there's the team and squad he had at Ajax would play really well in the Prem this year. You know what I mean? Like those cuts were good. So that's the only ground I'll give you to you're right, I think.
Did it take him a few years to like build a squad at Ajax? Like, I mean, I think the problem with the Prem and obviously in the big four clubs is like if you get brought in as a manager and you don't have instant success, especially nowadays, they'll just rip you. And
yeah, totally.
Most of the time, ownership will just take you out of the seat within a couple months. Like most managers don't get a lot of leeway. So I think in some of the other leagues and like lower or like mid-table, mid-high table teams, you can get a couple years to build it. But like in the Prem, when you come in, you have to perform right away. And I think the big issue is like, as we said, like, I don't even know who this cat was who was playing on the wing for y'all, but your $100 million signing is on the bench because he's so bad.
And that was a Ten Hag signing.
Like, and that's a Ten Hag signing. That's what I'm saying.
Which
so like he had a window with a budget for $100 million and went and got a guy that you're going to play a 19-year-old over because he's that bad. Like that, I feel like that type of stuff does not sit well with me as like just a fan who like sees a manager and it's like, okay, he's got to have responsibility for that. Like that is his guy that he brought in and he was awful.
Oh, I agree. I do think part of that though is like the $100 million doesn't happen if Ten Hag cannot be the only person to make decisions. And I think that's what he was last year. And I do think the pressure, where the pressure mounts is because Ineos is coming in with this sort of like fresh regime of like, they want a fresh start and they want a style that they're going to know and understand. And from top down, that's what they want to build. And I think if Ten Hag wasn't in the United job right now and Ineos is looking at managers, like Ten Hag would be the manager I would go get. And I think the problem that we're going to have now is going to be, I don't really think there's another manager out there right now that I would like jump over backwards to go get besides maybe Xabi Alonso. And he's not coming to United. And so that's where it's like we keep going through this cycle of blame the manager, blame the manager, blame the manager, blame the manager, blame the manager. And finally, we're fixing the internal problem. I'm just hoping they give him enough leeway to get to the summer, get rid of a ton of the deadwood, and then we can possibly
That's
build.
exactly how I feel. Like, if we can get there.
That's not the Prem is the thing. It's like Dan said. It's like everybody wants instant success.
It might be Ineos. Like, that's the thing. Like, I think Ineos have made it clear, and we don't need to harp on Manchester United for all of this podcast, but I think Ineos in every single, interview that they've done, every outward facing thing, they've been really strategic about the internal. They actually haven't had any rumors of players, like, at all. There's been zero talk about, people being linked. And I think that Sir Jim, can look at it and see it for what it is, of like the whole internal thing has to be changed. And it doesn't matter, like you said, Dobes, it doesn't matter what manager you bring in. It could be a caretaker manager and they're going to perform the exact same way until you address what you need to address. If it were me, like, I don't think that Ten Hag is faultless. And Flan, I think you bring up a really good point of like the style changes so much depending on the personnel, and I don't love that either. But if it's me, I'm backing Ten Hag at least through the summer, because like I just recognize with all of the other stuff going on inside the club, like he's still the person that I want to have. I don't want another manager to come in and then this summer be the summer of like, well, I need the summer to assess the players and then we'll do business in January. Like that will make me blow my brains out as a United fan. So don't need that. But
agreed.
But Lucas, we're talking about this fresh start needed, with Manchester United, and Arsenal was another club that needed a fresh start midweek after coming off of a disappointing loss. But it looked like you didn't give a fuck because you stomped Newcastle 4-1. So while you still can't do anything in Europe, it sounds like the Premier League you're picking up right where you were last year.
Don't take your anger out on me. There are two legs to this thing. Second leg's at home. It is going to be a fucking 180.
But y'all killed Newcastle, and I want to hear your thoughts on the game. But what is this now? 22 goals in the last 4 games or whatever it's been. Like
outrageous.
I think it's more than that. But yeah, man, moved within 2 points of Liverpool, one within City at the table. So obviously it's a close race right now. But yeah, what can you really say? I feel like we're so fucking fun to watch right now. 6 straight wins in the Prem in 2024. I feel like the story is continuing for us this year. We're scoring a lot of goals. Those goals are coming from all over the field as far as who's scoring them. Speaking of which, our backup left back now has 3 more goal contributions than your $100 million winger, which is really exciting for us. But a quick note, Dobes, Nate, and I were talking about best bets for this game on Saturday morning, and we agreed on the over, and then Dobes had a pick for Saka scoring. So, yeah, bang on that.
Let me know what you guys need, and I'm here for you. I'll help you guys out.
Appreciate that. And I think you said you had said that day that you even bet the over on United's game, so even when you lose, you win or something that. I was like, that was such a line. But no, we put on an absolute clinic. Yeah, Newcastle kind of has the injury bug right now and looked miserable the entire game outside of their 84th minute consolation goal. But although they looked awful, partially due to their own, turmoil, that's also partially due to the way that we were pressing and the energy that we brought to that game. I think at home in the first half especially, they had trouble stringing together more than a couple passes because of the way that our guys pressed and defended as a unit. So that was super exciting to watch, just as much as it was watching us put up 4 on the tune. I think for us, set pieces continue to be a huge point of success as well. 2 goals from corners in that game, leading the Premier League, give us the trophy for 4 goals from set pieces, even excluding penalties. But I think one of the big things I want to take away here, now that it's been, enough games consistently that we've been, scoring goals, I think we have like at least 2 goals in like 7 straight halves, which in the Premier League, which is a crazy stat too, and I think is a record for the competition as a whole. But last year and in a few of the games early on in the year, we were traditionally winning a lot of our games in tight manners, like in extra time or late in the second half, whatever the case was. But right now we're winning games easily. And I think that that's a huge sign of kind of how the system is finally coming together, but also how our summer signings are really starting to fit into the team. Kai's, been consistently way better than he has since we signed him.
That chant is unbelievable, by the way. Know. I hate it, but it's unbelievable.
Kai Havertz scores again. And then on top of that, the drastically low, XGA that we have when we play these teams too. But, there's not too much else to talk about this game. I think in a similar way to what City did to us last year. I've said it before and I'll say it again, but it's crucial to, win games that you should win and then put pressure on the teams that are in front of you and capitalize on those opportunities. And, we did that in a phenomenal way on Saturday. So super, super happy right now.
Dude, Newcastle's the type of team right now to get pressed and just vomit on themselves. Like they have zero ability to play out of a press, and
I hate Bruno G so much. So watching that was like even better. Every time he received the ball in turn, Declan Rice was fucking all over him, and it was
Declan Rice is a fucking signing and a half. Jesus,
yeah, he's been great. I'm kind of surprised that Eddie Howe hasn't been dropped as a manager, been sacked as a manager.
What are they in, like 10th right now?
I mean, they're not doing well.
They had a ton of injuries this year, though, too.
Last year was a fluke.
They got hammered like early year, mid-year.
Yeah.
I think right now their squad is honestly like they're getting back to what they were. So
Isak
even more props to you.
Huge.
Isak is a huge part of their team. Almiron's back. They have Loris Karius, so as a Liverpool fan, good luck to him. But yeah, I mean, most of their squad's honestly back, but I think they love him in Newcastle. Like it seems like they back him hard, and like almost felt like extreme sympathy for him when he had those issues early season, mid season with all the injuries. So
I hate Newcastle. Yeah. Fuck Newcastle.
Yeah, literally. Like.
Yeah, were you happy? I know like lately you're getting tired of the way that we've been playing Dobes, but are you happy that we pounded them, or would you obviously for you guys in a perfect world probably a tie would have been ideal, but knowing how much you hate Newcastle,
brother, I am anyone but Liverpool or City winning the league. So I told you guys have my league.
Disgusting.
You guys have my league.
Disgusting fans. Well, Lucas, we'll get back to you in a second when we talk Champions League, but let's move to the main attraction, fellas. The Carabao Cup, which, if you've been a fan of this podcast for any amount of time, you know the absolute reverence that we have for the Carabao Cup on this podcast.
Here we go.
We hold it up there in the highest regards, along with the League's Cup and
Champions League.
So
World Cup, Carabao
the Club
Cup.
World Cup, all of them.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
So for those of you that didn't watch the game, Liverpool won in a 1-0 game against Chelsea in extra time. And what was the headline? It was Klopp's kids beating the $1 billion bottle jobs. I think that's how the title read. And honestly, I don't know where to start with this. But I think with the special guest, Flan Butch, I think we'll give it to the Liverpool guys to start off this game.
Flan, I'm going to let you kind of start it because I got to watch the first half on the way to the.
I got something to say to Butch and Nick at the end of this. So yeah,
okay.
Go ahead, Butch.
I was just going to say I'll let our special guest kind of rip it. I watched the whole first half, but then we had to tee off, so I was kind of like in and out of watching the rest. But I was refreshing my
fake ass fan. Are you kidding me, bro? Fan. What are we doing?
You could give me Augusta National or a Cup final for United, and I'm taking the Cup final 10 times out of 10.
Jesus.
Okay, I was committed to playing golf, but
I'm happy to kick us off. I had a couple thoughts, so I'm gonna rip them off real quick. The ones that y'all want to pick at, or Hafey, I know you're gonna be pissed off at some of them, so we can tackle them as we want. But first note that I had like immediately following the game, Virgil van Dijk was robbed of a Ballon d'Or. He is in top form.
Oh
He is in top form this
coming out
season.
swinging, bro. What are we talking about?
Absolute colossal
I was
performance.
going to compliment him too. Yeah. Fuck.
Absolute colossal performance. He's played in 4 finals, won 4 men of the matches. He played really well yesterday. I thought it was like a statement game for him.
Stat? 4 out of 4 for man of the matches.
I don't know if it's every final he's been in, but he's definitely played in 4 finals and won 4 men of the match performances. Yes,
wow,
including the last Carabao Cup, which we won 2 years ago. So, yeah, I thought it was a big game for him for multiple reasons, especially like the youth in the squad. I think like it was a real game for him as one of the senior players to really shine. First time lifting a trophy as Liverpool captain, so sort of like solidifying himself as Liverpool captain. I thought that was huge. But yeah, I mean, he scored the same goal twice, just as like an emphasis of like, I'll do this shit again. We're gonna win this game. So amazing performance there. Wataru Endo, we're talking about signings and the importance of like good signings. £16 million for that guy was absolutely absurd. I do remember actually, like, funny enough, Klopp put out a video after we signed him, like asking Liverpool fans, like, please, like, trust me on this one. Like, I know like we're missed out on Caicedo, we missed out on Enzo. Like, what were they calling him? Chelsea called him like the LFC midfield because we lost
dodged a bullet.
Fernandes, the guy who hasn't played at all from I don't know, young kid,
yeah.
and then Caicedo. We missed out on all 3 of them. We bought this 31-year-old. When like we had just sold our whole team because they were 31, 16 million from like some German club, but that guy is absolutely incredible.
31. He's a baller.
Yeah. I think the like undervalued like captain of Japan. I think anytime you captain a good national team, you're somebody. So that should like speak to it already. But yeah, he's been lights out with us. We haven't lost a game that he's started all year. I think he's started now 16 games. We've won 14, tied 2, and have like a plus 36 goal differential in those games. So he's an absolute machine. Yeah, like props to him. He goes by his business quietly, but fantastic player. I think, as Klopp was saying, like maybe one of the best trophies he's won, definitely at Liverpool. Obviously, it's Carabao Cup, so like you don't want to overstate it, but just like in a season where we felt like we should have no excuses. Like there were so many excuses we had for this game. We come into the match missing 6 starters. We instantly lose like one of our decent midfielders and have to bring on a kid like within 20 minutes. So it just felt like, holy shit, like we knew we were going to be subbing on 16-year-olds once we got like late in the game. Of course it goes extra time.
We don't have any 16-year-olds.
Of course it goes extra time. So like we have to bring in on more like teenagers and academy players. So yeah, like I just feel like that to pull it out against a squad that has a lot of talent. Like there is a lot of talent on Chelsea. They haven't had a
younger squad
this year. But there is a lot of talent on the Chelsea team. So I felt like it's just like a huge trophy for us to win. So
don't make me do it, Nick. Just don't make me do it, man.
Yeah, I think this also just speaks to Klopp's legacy. Like, as far as speaking of Ten Hag and like the ability to really like build a program, like I think this speaks to the fact that, and I sort of thought about this when you were mentioning the fact that he only had a window, is because we've had Klopp for 8 years. We can bring on academy players and bring up academy players because top to bottom, the club is playing the same type of football.
System.
Like, we have a system. We have implemented it across all of our youth teams so that we can pull from our U21s, U18s, if they're stars shining, and put them into the senior squad. I felt like he made like the right substitutions as he always does. I felt like he made the right tactical changes as he always does.
Dude,
yeah,
I mean, some of these kids could have been 12 years old when he started at the club. So like you're 100% right. You literally go out and you can start to be nitpicky on youth players you're bringing in because you know that this is going to happen.
Yeah. I also think that something that's cool about the Liverpool academy. So like all of those guys that came on, none of them were like the next big thing. Like we talked about with Forson coming on, and like at United, when we've had Menu, we've had Garnacho come through. Even earlier on, you can even go back to like the Januzajs and all those guys that have come through at United. I feel like whenever an academy guy gets into the first team, they have to be the class of '92, and they have to be the guy, and they have to be all this stuff. Where you just saw Liverpool field 6 of them at the same time, and none of them have to be the next Steven Gerrard, but they all are bought into the system. They're all bought into the identity. And so, yeah, just like you said, I think it's such a cool testament to how a club can be run when you trust a manager to do it. So,
God, I want to know what it's like, dude. I just want to know.
God, we're gonna fucking lose them.
Do you think that should have been a red card for Gravenberch's injury?
To be honest, no, because I don't think it was like really an intentional challenge. I think that is a big part of the rule. It's like the intent. Like, what is the intent? Was he going in like trying to make a really hard challenge? No, I do think he was going in trying to make a challenge. I think it's a yellow card without a doubt, like on the pitch. I think it's at least a foul. But I feel like the referee honestly kind of butchered that game, both sides. Like, I just feel like he kind of lost the plot a little bit. Like, was just missing things. I mean, it was boiling up between Chilwell and like Bradley in like the 12th minute. He had no handle on it. So yeah, I feel like they just sort of missed that one. So like, I didn't expect Vieira to come back and red card it, to be honest. Like, it felt like more like they were running next to each other and he stomped on him, unfortunately, like as he was sort of pulling out of the challenge, less so of like a slat tackle. So I don't hate it. But I don't
call it a foul or a yellow, though, is pretty wild to me.
Yeah, pretty egregious in my opinion. Yeah, like that part of it was like.
I don't mind no red, especially in a final too. Like I think that like we say this, I do think finals should be refereed a little bit different than your average game. But the fact that there was nothing there was just insane.
It's insane. Yeah, I think you're right to call out Van Dijk also for a colossal performance. But two people that I want to call out on your end, Luis Diaz played a great game. He was so dangerous. Surprised he didn't bag one, honestly. I mean, he was everywhere for the whole game. He was everywhere. Yeah. And I thought your keeper was just great. I thought he was really good, made some huge saves, was commanding of the box. And obviously you always feel more secure with Alisson in net. But man, he's a good player. That was great.
100% agree. I think Huijsen he was our man of the match. Club gave it to him. I think rightfully so. He's once again like academy kid, been in the program for a little while. We always let him play the smaller cups until the finals. So he's always like training and like ready for the best. But he had an absolute performance. Like he usually plays well, but that was an Alisson at his prime level performance. Like stopping some of those chances that Chelsea had, I thought was really incredible. Couple of those goals, Cole Palmer should have had one for sure. Without a doubt, I think Gallagher should have had one, probably two. But yeah, like not necessarily all their fault, just good saves. Like really, really, really stellar performance. Kept us in that game when we maybe didn't deserve it. Like there were at times we were definitely getting played off the pitch and we looked like we were not in the game, but I think the opposite kind of happened for Chelsea once we hit the extra time periods, which was interesting.
Yeah, totally. Nikki, thoughts?
Yeah. To be fair, before we go into bantering and me responding to some of Flan's takes and some of the banter that's been going on in the Mecca, I do want to have my own banter on Chelsea before I defend them.
I want to diet myself first.
Yeah,
Poach
this was probably the biggest game of our season. Just because one, I didn't realize. Well, I did realize, but maybe not a lot of people realize that the winner of this game makes the Conference League. And I know for Liverpool, that's probably not that big of a deal. But for us, that money-wise is a huge deal for us playing in Europe. So going into this game, I think it was definitely at a higher scale for us. And something I looked at as a must win. And I think the fact that you brought up Van Dijk and the experience that he has, and the person that we look to or we have on our side is Sterling. So that was where we're at. Sterling is pretty much the only reason I thought he should have been on the pitch was for his experience, because similar to your team, he is with a bunch of youngsters and academy players. You guys just know our academy players' names because they've been playing for us for the entire season, because we've had 10 plus injuries every month this year. We've only had 5 players not injured. So the reason why you know their names is because they're having to play. That's with that. I will say Sterling should have had 2 goals, 3 goals. Jackson should have had 2 goals, and Gallagher should have had 3 goals. And it could have been a lot different game. And it's embarrassing that they didn't put away those chances. But I also completely agree with Flan. Endo is a signing and a half. He played incredible and bossed around our midfield. I thought Caicedo kind of built into the game. And I also think Poach didn't make the right subs towards the end. I think your teenagers were able to come on and kind of have an impact because our team was dead exhausted and we weren't making the right subs. I think we obviously had teenagers and academy boys as well who were on the bench, but they didn't get in. So
I don't want to breeze over that comment too fast. What academy guys are in your team that have been playing so much that we know their names? Just curious.
Gallagher
is an academy.
He's an England international. He's not an academy guy.
Hey. Okay, there's a difference between a guy who came from your academy and like built up into his senior career, and a guy who you pulled from the academy last week because you needed him today.
Colwell, Chilwell, they're all academy players.
Colwell was rumored to be a $100 million signing earlier in the season.
Gilchrist, yes. I'll give you Gilchrist. Gilchrist definitely is an academy guy.
The academy boys. All of them.
Okay.
They've just been playing for our side more recently because we've needed them. Because we've
Did Gilchrist play?
You silly
Did
boy.
Gilchrist play?
No,
I
he
don't
didn't
think so.
play.
I don't think he got
his name.
Okay. I'm not giving you Gallagher. That's absurd.
That's insane.
I'm not giving Colwell.
I'm not giving you Colwell either.
What do you mean? Those are both Chelsea Academy players.
Hey, Nick.
These guys have international caps.
They have international caps. They have experience. They played in the Prem.
played
Like
in
all of
World
these
Cups.
guys, every guy you brought on in that game or played in that game has played 10 plus, probably like definitely 10 plus Premier League games.
Hey,
They're
Nick.
still young. Yes.
Bro.
Yeah, they're young, but
Younger
they're
than your
seasoned.
team.
Bro, we brought on
Them
this.
because they beat better.
Hold on a second. We brought on this chap, and he looks like little Jimmy in my first hour. James McConnell.
See anything this low.
Bro,
he's-
he's center midfield.
Look how young he looks. Like he's 12.
James McConnell definitely has less than 90 minutes of playtime total in his career in the Premier League. Jaden Dan's
You haven't had injuries all year.
Jaden Dan's second ever senior game was the Carabao Cup for Liverpool. These guys are actual like kids
Academy
who don't
players.
play for us. Actual academy players. Like
To
sure,
me-
your team age is lower, but as I just shocked you
No,
with,
your
Endo's
starting
31. That
starting
jacks our average up a ton. Virgil van Dijk 31. Jacks
Okay.
our age up
And
a
at
ton.
the end of the game, we still had a younger age. So start of the match and in the match, we had a
Yes,
younger.
I'm telling
age
you.
and experience are two different things.
Age is and experience are extremely different things here. Like
Agreed.
as far as your team's experience, you brought on Mikhail Mudryk, who was like a
100
star
million.
signing, $100 million, supposed to be great. We're bringing on Jaden Dans. Have you ever heard his name? No. Has he ever played for Liverpool? Yes, once before he got 10 minutes in the previous Premier League game. That's his only senior experience. Like those subs are very different. That guy with the headband, who is not that good but has a lot of hype around him. That guy's played a lot of Premier League games. Like that guy has Premier League experience. He has senior team experience. He's been with the senior team all year.
Because we've
That's
had
a very
injuries.
different sub than McConnell.
Bro, to me, this game, it comes down to age aside. When you look at the two managers and the way that this game was handled towards extra time, that's the difference for me.
100%. 100%
Chelsea-
agree with that. 100%.
Chelsea had this game by the scruff. They were playing against inexperienced, I'm not going to say young, inexperienced Liverpool players playing in a final at Wembley. And all of a sudden, Liverpool comes out and these kids had a few minutes in the game and they're like, Chelsea's sitting off. Let's go take this. And so much of that is Klopp coming out in between and being like, all right, boys, we can let's go for this. Why not? And as you're sitting here describing, this game could have meant everything for Chelsea. Everything. Conference League, final, you name it. And then Poach comes out after the game and said, we were tired playing for pens. Like, that to me is just like, obviously I've firsthand seen the mentality issue. Like, that to me is the difference in the game. It's Klopp being able to inspire players and Poach not having a clue what to do in that moment. Like, to me, that's the difference in the game, because Chelsea for 90 minutes, like we said, probably should have won, regardless of experience, regardless of age, regardless of everything. They probably should have won. Then the moment gets down to the nitty gritty, like, it looked like the Chelsea players were shitting themselves in extra time, getting the game taken to them by teenagers. And to me, that's the difference in the game.
I think Connor Bradley making a challenge on Chilwell early in the game and getting under Chill. The thing is like, Chilwell's your captain, and you get him ruffled by a kid who's however old he is. And it doesn't really matter the age, but I think it just shows that one of your more senior players in Ben Chilwell should be like this, like, captain figure. He gets ruffled right off the bat.
23.
Yeah, but he's your captain. It doesn't matter. Like, that's a thing. Like, he does, if you have,
I agree with that. I agree.
Choose
Wait,
any.
Chilwell's 27, isn't he?
Butch, can you confirm the date?
Yes, 27.
But like, one of your young guys, just for example, one of your young guys does that to Van Dijk. Van Dijk is probably hitting him with like a too small and like whatever.
You're comparing them to Van Dijk. By no means, like, what are we on about? Van Dijk is a experience, like we just talked about, 4 years in the 4 finals, all that shit. We have Raheem Sterling to look at for that. Like,
I forgot that we were comparing him to what should have been Ballon d'Or winner Van Dijk. Jesus Christ, Flan.
Yes, thank you.
Fuck me.
Rob.
No,
I just
Rob.
have one more statement. I understand the price tag, and Dobes, you're going to probably hate this stat that I'm bringing up now. But at the start of this game, starting lineups comparing price tags, we were only, I say only, and you guys are going to laugh, but $80 million more. If you compare the expenses of both starting lineups, you're $80 million.
Brother. If you're a Chelsea fan, if you're a fan of any team in here, and you could handpick players that would be out for Liverpool before you play in a final, the only person missing is probably Van Dijk that you could say that you want out. Everybody else was missing. Every single other player was missing. Slow was like solid. Everybody was missing.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that it doesn't matter. Like, if I could handpick a Liverpool team to play against, I'm playing that Liverpool team on Sunday. That's it. Bottom line. Maybe Van Dijk I'd wish was out too, but besides that, like, you can't ask for much more in a final.
Yeah. I did love like late in the game, they panned to like Salah, Szoboszlai, and someone like in the stands watching the game, and they just looked like a couple of local lads just enjoying the game, which I love.
Just chilling, ready for some bevies, man.
Yeah, they're just getting after it.
I'm really intrigued, Flan and Butch, and you guys as well. I saw it thrown around in our Mecca. What is Chelsea's A team to you guys?
Just pick a group. Pick a group of the 47 guys you have contracted.
It's like, can you guys pick an A team? Like, I think
absolutely.
Every position has an injury, and every position is that question in my eyes.
No, I mean, to be honest, the lineup that you guys played had a pretty decent string of games.
I think that's your A team
in the Premier League that resulted in wins.
We have not had consecutive game lineups.
No, the only positions that have changed a little bit in the past few weeks. I went back and I looked at the lineups because I know you were going to bring this up. I looked at the Chelsea lineups. The front three of Cole Palmer, Nicholas Jackson, and Sterling has been fairly consistent the whole year, certainly in the past 3-4 weeks. And you've gotten results with that lineup. Gallagher has been in there consistently as well. Caicedo consistently, Fernandes consistently. Gusto has been an absolute rock star at right back. And to be honest, I think Diaz takes over that game even more if Gusto doesn't play the way he does.
Yeah.
Gusto had an absolute man-of-the-match performance against City, was on an island all game, and absolutely showed out, balled. Disasi also had himself a game against City. Honestly, he's been in and out, though. Your two center backs have definitely changed.
Our entire line could be a whole different back line with our injuries.
Yeah, but the guys you weren't there are the guys you played. You won.
That's what I'm saying.
We have never seen a starting A side of Chelsea play together yet because we have injuries throughout the entire year.
I think you just saw them play Sunday.
This is the A team. This is the A team.
I can question and argue, guys, each position that you just said.
But who
Okay,
would
so-
you genuinely?
who would you replace?
No, I'm not saying that I personally would
Gusto
replace,
has
but
been
Reece James would
unbelievable.
start over Gusto at right back. Fofana could start at center back. Silva could start at center back. I'm not agreeing with
They
these.
could.
These are
No, but I'm saying, who is your A team?
An A team. We don't know. We haven't seen them. They've been injured. We haven't seen those duos together. I haven't seen a side play consecutively to even establish an A team. I agree with you that the front three were collectively similar, but I can argue each one that new people should come in and play those positions. Is that on Poach? 100%. But as far as this being our A team, I have no idea where you guys are getting that from, and I would
That's
love.
Cope. That's insane, Cope. There's no way. Like, that's outrageous.
If we take a step back from the injuries, and you look at the game itself and the weeks that you've had leading up to the game, this has been some of the best football that we've seen from Chelsea. And this year, I think so 100% consistently. So I think if you look at this game, and we've talked about it, we don't have to beat a dead horse. You wanted to win this not only for the things that were on the table, but also because this is a weak Liverpool side. And like when we say weak, we mean pretty weak. So at the end of the day, who would you switch in?
Incredible last week because they have the ability.
But what players in this game, even if they were uninjured, who would you have wanted instead of Colwill or? See,
that's where it's hard because I haven't seen some of these guys play yet. But off the bat, like a Reece James input in this game, huge. Lavia, we haven't even seen him play since the 1 second he played. I agree with you. There's a lot of
You put in Lavia over Gallagher, Caicedo, or Fernandes to start this game.
Maybe Gallagher. Gallagher's had to play in that role all year because we haven't had someone else switch there.
I thought Gallagher played well.
Gallagher was one of your better players.
I thought he played well.
He's been good for you weeks in, weeks out.
Just said.
Well, Butch, you've been pretty silent during this, but do you have any thoughts on this game or what this potential trophy means to Klopp's legacy that I want to throw up about, or how are you feeling?
I mean, Flan, you hit it. You hit all the big points, man. The only thing I want to add is that I think Alexis McAllister is a fucking baller.
True. Yeah.
Like
he played very well.
You know, Nick keeps saying like this guy's a big signing. Like I think Alexis is a phenomenal signing and great piece of business, and he's been really consistent for us, especially with a few guys banged up. Thiago again hasn't played in forever, right?
Who?
So you're relying on
Who?
Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, you kind of forget he's even around, you know. But
Coach now.
McAllister's fantastic. And then the only other thing I want to say is I think Connor Bradley's going to be a future star. He's going to be.
I think you guys play better with him.
He's going to be a star.
Nick said that. I'll give you credit. He's hit that drum.
Yeah. I could see Bradley playing right back for us in the future, and we move Trent to the mid.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
I mean, the goalpost moving is crazy, man. The goalpost moving here is insane.
Bradley,
I'm mind blown.
I also think, I don't know if a lot of people noticed, but like Bradley 20 minutes in got moved to center mid. Like he played a cup final at a position he's never played on the biggest stage, and he played a great game. So shows to his talent and versatility. So I'm excited to see his stardom in the future. I think he's going to be phenomenal. But that's the only thing I wanted to add. Flan's our guest, and he hit everything on the head, man.
I want to make one more note. First being, I think it was towards extra time. It was definitely late in the game. But Wembley is a 50-50 split stadium for the final. When the LA started raining down from the Liverpool end and absolutely just filled the stadium, it gave it like an Anfield-esque feel. I really felt like that.
Lit a fire.
The fans could see that everyone's legs were shot. They're playing 140 minutes of football. I felt like that pushed the team on, honestly. So just a shout out and a testament to the Liverpool faithful.
Was Klopp's announcement all marketing to make everything that much fucking litter?
I don't know. I would love if he Wolf of Wall Streeted it at the end of the year. I think if we win more trophies, without a doubt, I think he does. But we're still actively. The club is making moves on Xabi Alonso. That has become abundantly clear, and expecting Klopp to leave. And I think he will probably honor it. But I am also, just as far as Klopp's legacy, like, just so glad that we got a trophy, because now they already announced it, but we'll do an like open bus tour at the end of the season as like a Klopp send off.
You going?
If the Carabao is all we have with us, a little bit of a yikes, but regardless, I think
that's a successful season.
I think he deserves the send off. So I'm happy for him. Very happy.
Yeah, when he came out in the post match and said that it was like the hardest trophy or the most meaningful trophy, I was like, ugh, gag me. That on the documentary is going to make all these Liverpool
with the
moms
kids, though,
cry,
you get it.
and I'm like
with the kids, it makes sense.
Yeah, the circumstantial situation for sure.
I don't give a fuck, bro. You're telling me that when they won the Prem after not winning it for years and years and years, that this Carabao Cup is more important?
I think because the Prem was an empty stadium, actually a little bit maybe. Like I do think that took away a little bit from the Prem winning. I think if the Prem winning had been like Anfield in full voice, like nothing's beating that, right? Like the 30-year drought ended, no chance.
Totally.
Do I think this is more significant than Champions League? No, but maybe is it like? I think as a feel-good trophy, maybe. Yeah,
instant nostalgia. Yeah.
If we're talking about former things that shouldn't have happened. That Champions League's up in the air. If Musa Sissoko doesn't get a wrongly called handball.
I knew this was coming.
This makes three pods in a row that Hoover's brought this up. 3 pods in a row.
Tottenham doesn't even play this weekend and somehow still get
ball.
Henry said gag me earlier. I just want to
Champions League is a great segue to Lucas.
That was fun.
Suffered a loss, 1-0 loss against Porto, and again,
handpicked.
100%. We would handpick anyone in this round, and it's
that was a good
Porto.
video, Nikki.
I'm gonna handpick him in the second round too. Yeah,
sure.
The result was disappointing, but not awful for me. I definitely think we went into it with an attitude that it was going to be a lot easier than it was. Probably a game that in last year we would have gone into going against a Bournemouth or a Luton or whatever the case might be. It was honestly super boring to watch.
It was.
The momentum was set in a really weird direction when Rice got that yellow card like just over a minute into the game, but 2 total shots on goals between both teams. The first time we've been held to 0 shots on goal in a minute. It was weird. Yeah, we lined up the same way we had the last few games.
I like that you said 2 total shots on goal from
between
both
the teams.
And then that you had 0.
Spin zone, baby.
That's unbelievable.
And then I shot myself in the foot. No, but no, just to say, like, the fact that it was a boring game, there were only 2 shots on goal collectively, and that we were also held to 0. So we had lined up the same way that we had the last few games where we were scoring 4 and 5 goals a game. Had plenty of possession, but for those of you that watched it, like almost all of that possession was played in front of Porto. So like, whereas the last handful or more games, we've had the majority of possession, but so much of that was playing in between, through the lines, in behind, different things like that. And we just like didn't threaten in the final third whatsoever compared to the way that we had in prior games, outside of a few little moments from set pieces that, didn't go on goal. So I don't know. We struggled to like get any rhythm going. We were passive. I really don't know what to say because it was so drastic. We looked so drastically different than we had any other game in this calendar year. Galeno's goal. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I'm curious your thoughts because I feel like with the current team and with Arteta, like obviously you guys have insane talent. You've been absolutely bagging goals in and around this Porto game. But I feel like these type of games like happen or can happen. And it's the only thing that's stopping Arsenal from like leading the league right now or, like really being contenders in Europe. What do you feel like is like the missing link for when these type of games happen for the Gunners?
An out and out striker.
You got Kai.
Remember last week when Lucas was like, we don't need a striker. But when you have everyone else performing like they have, bro, fucking clip it up, bro. Unbelievable. Say it, Lucas. Say it.
But also last week I had said that we didn't need a striker. Thanks for letting me finish.
There you go.
So I said that last week, but I had also said that there's going to be a point where this whole, not even roller coaster, but this whole upward trend like comes to a stop, and then we're going to need to look for one. And like this is an example of that. Granted, we like came back from that with what we did to Newcastle at the weekend, but I think that like that is an example of a moment where if one of the other several players that have been scoring multiple goals throughout the Prem season like can't do anything, this is one of those instances where we need an out and out striker that we can play the ball like with the ball in and is going to jump over everybody, or that we can play to their feet and they can turn and put something on net. But we just like had no rhythm. And I think that they defended our set pieces really well. Pepe had his back line locked the fuck down. They were playing a high line and doing it really, really well. So I think that defensively, shouts to Porto because they played us really well. They knew what our strengths were and outplayed us, and they probably should have had another goal in the first half. Galeno, missed that one wide. But then he came back in extra time in the second half, and it was an insane finish from outside the box. I do think Raya wasn't in his best position for that, but it was an insane goal either way. But that's why there's two legs. Like I said earlier,
true.
I genuinely believe this one's going to be a complete 180, and Henry, you can clip the fuck out of that. I'm really looking forward to it. We've played Porto in the Champions League like 6 times, and we've never lost or drawn at home. So the trend is pointing in the right direction.
Curious your thoughts, and this is kind of talking about the 9. Obviously, you guys play Sheffield and Brentford before you go back to Porto, but kind of like Flan said, like these tournaments are like one game. It's one game. You put out your 11 and get a result. Like right now, is Havertz that 9, or like who in your opinion are you playing there? Because obviously you saw him at the weekend, but I do think it's that one game. Like you need somebody like that to score. Who are you going to play there?
Yeah, man, it depends on what Arteta does to adjust the strategy and how Porto defended us. Because, in most situations right now I'd probably want Trossard there as from the guys that are healthy, but I also love so much the energy that he brings off the bench when he comes on in the 60th minute or a little after. Yeah, dude, like when he's a sub, I think he's one of the best subs in the Premier League to come off the bench for any team. So it's tough because, he just does a lot of things differently than Kai does, and a lot of things better. But also if the strategy is to whip more balls in, Kai seems to always be at the back post, always making back post runs. So I don't know. I don't have an answer. That's why I'm not the manager. But, I think it depends on what they work on over the next couple weeks ahead of this game and how they want to try and combat how so tired of talking about them. How Porto is playing defensively.
Right, I hear Liverpool.
We're so fucking bad.
So Virgil van Dijk.
Old.
Lucas, what do you have? Is it next week or is it 2 weeks from now that you all play again?
That's such a good question.
They play. I think Wednesday,
weeks.
Saturday, then next week. I think is what it is.
Okay.
Dude, this game is it was the definition of why did we get rid of away goals?
100%.
Just put something on the table for them to be able to score, bro. And it's not like you guys didn't have a plan. It was just that no one really was wanting to give up any positions to try and go get one. I don't think I truthfully, kill me now. I don't think you guys don't go through. I think you go through. I would be shocked if that actually happened at the Emirates. But I think you come back to the Emirates with a 1-1, and it's a cakewalk. You can sleepwalk that thing. So I hated that, and it's been very evident in all of the Champions League games, not just this one. They've been not nearly as fun to watch, in my opinion, this year. And there's not been good draws, and go on and on. But I think
that the one thing I want to point out though about how the draws for this round have been boring, I think that's going to set up really, really interesting. Assuming that the teams that should go through, that's going to set up a really interesting set of quarterfinal, semifinal and final games as far
Also,
as matchups go, because that means that
Porto.
a lot of the powerhouses aren't getting knocked out. What'd you say?
I said, don't count out Porto. Like we say, no. I'm not saying you, but I just mean like every year, like Porto seems to be one of these teams that are in these games. Every single year, they're one of these teams that are somehow in the quarterfinals or the round of 16.
Third in the Portuguese league, but show up to.
That's what I mean. Like one game, like when like Pepe, like they just have something about them that like
I hate
they
playing
never
Portuguese teams in general.
Always.
Any of them, I hate it.
I also think you guys have to play your dogs now in that game. And
That's a good point.
Race,
yeah.
With the title race.
We played our dogs, in the first leg, so it's.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying if you win a comfortable game there, then the next leg you don't have to play your dogs again, and you can focus on the Prem.
What was the age difference between the average age of Arsenal and Porto? That's what we need to know.
I think Pepe brings that age about 5 or 6 years.
Dude, Pepe's like 50. How old is that guy?
I think he's 41.
Yeah.
40.
Thankfully, the weekend before we play near relegation Brentford side, so maybe that's a game where we, rest a couple of them and. Ahead of that, knowing that we're going to have to play all the dogs for sure. And I think on top of that, we're pretty healthy. We're going to have Yuri and Timber back by that time. Party should apparently be back by that time, but maybe that Brentford game is a game that he plays since he hasn't played in forever. But I think that with the guys that are coming back from healthy, Zinchenko should be back. Gabriel Jesus should be back. So, I don't get to say this often, but we've been very fortunate in the injury department to be majorly, whatever the word is. Words are hard to say apparently, but
tough.
We've been fortunate that I haven't had to complain about injuries this year. So we'll see.
Well, gentlemen, the MLS is back. We had 2 games. We had a CONCACAF Champions League game, and we had the MLS match week 1. But before we dive into St. Louis City, is it just me, fellas, or are we fucking sick of Inter Miami being plastered everywhere, and it's on everyone's tongue? It's the most ludicrous thing I've ever seen.
Yes. Go make your money, right? Like, I guess, bro, but dude, give it a break.
It's the most frustrating thing in the world. Frustrating thing in the world with them. One, like I watched an entire game, watching an Alesso concert in the middle of an MLS game. and not only that, but it's like you watch Inter Miami, and I mean this like nicely, they are terrible. Like, they are terrible. And the fact that it's like, the Galaxy should have won that game, and not to like detail this game. Galaxy should have won that game by like 4 or 5 goals. Busquets should have been sent off 2 or 3 times. Like, the bias that Inter Miami is getting, and I understand it. It's the Messi, it's the money. He's getting revenue from Apple TV signups and all this different shit. But like, at the same time, it's not like I don't think that they're gonna walk into any stadium, at least with a Suarez who's sitting there quite literally limping every single time he runs. Like, he's still playing. But he has a limp, and he can't press. He can't do anything. You got Campana on the bench. It's like, and Busquets does what he does on the ball, but he's a liability in defense. It's just like, obviously I love Messi, and he had that moment of magic where him and Jordi Alba were like fantastic. But the dick riding has got to stop. Like, not just for Messi, but Inter Miami as a whole, because they're truthfully, they're not good. Like, from the games I've watched, even preseason, they have not played good soccer at all. Not a single time.
Flan, before you go, I just want to say, can we get a round of applause for Dobes, the MLS fan? Like,
Dobes, look at you, bro. Okay.
I watched a Fire game this weekend. I watched a New York game this weekend.
This directly helps my point, though, because, like, okay, in America, us 7 sitting here are the minority. As in, we religiously watch footy. We understand footy, like, very
some
much
of us
so.
more than others, for sure.
Some of us more than others.
Very much.
Hey, still learning. And we played at a very high level.
He hasn't been a fan that long. He is still learning.
And we played like at a high level or like competitively. So
yeah, dude, the co-league beer league team I was in at Missouri State was huge. We
exactly.
Could have all gotten signed, brother.
Okay, so
continue.
Regardless, the point of the MLS, like our biggest gripe with it is that it's been like bad, right? And it's not very good, high quality soccer at all, like in any way, shape, or form. And so I think their biggest struggle has been finding talent, like being able to attract talent basically to the league, because it's not getting a ton of viewership because historically it's not been that good. So I think the Miami situation is sort of necessary. So for us, it's annoying because, right, like the footy is terrible. We see like Wash Suarez, we see Busquets absolutely not in his prime. Messi can still play like incredibly well and still is like obviously probably 8-time Ballon d'Or winner or whatever for a reason. But I think it has to happen because for the MLS to draw more eyes, like they have to make these signings, because there's a lot of people that would not watch if it wasn't for these people being in the league. And that starts at least the first phase, which is getting viewership numbers up, which then gets sponsors more interested, which then brings money to the game, which then hopefully has a cascading effect, bringing more talent to the league. So while I feel like it's like definitely, I mean, I shit you not, I'm in Africa and I'm seeing people wearing Miami FC.
That's insane.
Like literally in Tanzania, people have like kits on from and I was like, okay, this is outrageous. But the reach is broad. And so like bringing those eyes and that amount of eyes to the MLS, I do think is a good thing in the end, and hopefully results in like more money in the league and then better talent.
If St. Louis didn't have a team, the only MLS game I would ever watch would be Inter Miami.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess that is the double edge. Like if St. Louis didn't have a team, I would only watch the
announcers to stop talking about it during other games. Like
I
just want it to be like, you know, we're obviously watching Miami and LA Galaxy, and you have Ricky Poach or whatever the fuck his name is. He's such
balled,
a
by the way. He balled.
But the whole game, it's just like, here's Ricky Poach against his former Barcelona teammates, and it's like, shut up,
dude.
Shut up.
Here's my issue, and Flan's right on every point he made. The biggest problem to me is that I don't trust the MLS to actually spend the money in the way that it should be spent to actually grow the league. I think the owners they've got Garber's nuts just in a vice grip, and I don't think
they had a meeting about this yesterday.
They had a meeting about expanding roster rules or whatever, which if that was what happened, then great. But I have a hard time thinking that was actually the case, because there apparently was no progress on that over the summer, even though Miami is stacking together Barcelona in their old age. The Ross, all that stuff drives me up a wall. Alesso's booking fee was 6 figures. That's public record. You can go look what it costs to book Alesso for something, and we can't pay the refs. We literally can't pay the shitty refs that we had last year that we all hated so much. And now we're watching guys from USL and Costa Rica come up here and try and ref the professional game. So that's my biggest gripe. I'm glad it's happening, but it's the trickle down is not going the places that I thought we all thought it was going to head. That's the kicker.
Yeah, grow the game is not necessarily happening. That's for sure.
Grow the league, yeah. Blow.
Yeah.
Dude, well, there's definitely still a huge gap. I mean, even like this weekend, ESPN broadcast has the rights to the Carabao Cup, right? First of all, that desk could not be worse. Like,
yes,
by far,
100%.
Like mute during halftime, during extra time.
Craig
Burnley
is like my arch enemy. I hate him so much.
I hate Shaka Hislop too, bro.
Yeah.
But like, so I feel like that's the big gap, though. Is like they just like the leadership behind soccer in the United States still has a huge gap. Like, I hope it's people more like us or ex-players who feel like they have a better understanding of the game. But like, I'm watching the broadcast, watching Virgil van Dijk give like a post-game interview, and they just chopped it and started running ads. And I'm just like, what's the point of having the broadcast? What's the point of it? Like, there's definitely still a huge gap at the top level, without a doubt.
Yeah,
you got Taylor Twellman saying players to watch Lionel Messi.
Oh, you don't think TT? Oh,
hey, thanks, man.
Everything ever. We're gonna forget to watch him, bro. Yeah.
Gentlemen, we came off of a week with St. Louis City having 2 games, a win and a tie. So starting off with the 2-1 win over Houston at home at City Park in the CONCACAF Champions League, and then we finished the week with a 1-1 tie at City Park against Real Salt Lake. With two big matches coming up this next week, what were your thoughts on what you saw over the first 180 minutes of St. Louis City this week?
Sure, I'll go. It's like watching Man United, and I mean that in the worst way possible. But there's so many similarities to where I know we talked about a little bit about the Houston game earlier and just the lack of identity, but the finishing did end up there, and we did score goals. More so, moving to the game this weekend, like it was almost even worse in my opinion. Like, yes, it took one moment of magic from Big Sam, but we saw our stars not really be stars. And even like we talked about the ability to put your foot on the ball and control a little bit of the game. We don't have a single player on our team, at least this past weekend, that even attempted that. Like Lewin played a great ball over the top. And last year, when this team was humming and we were at our best, everything was running through him. He was finding the ball. He was playing to feet, a little bit of 1-2 touch. And yes, then he did sort of have those balls behind that were that made things happen. But from back to front, like there were some good performances. Nilsson was good. Yarrow was good. Of course, Tottenham was good again. But other than that, there wasn't too many bright spots. And I'm extremely concerned going into Houston again. One, because of injuries, but two, even if you want to call pressing our style of play, so to speak, or counter pressing or G-gen pressing, whatever you want to say, we're not really even seeing that work successful. So going into Houston, I'm extremely concerned.
There's not been a lot of gigging in the press. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not. And I think that lack of identity is certainly there. It's early, it's 180 minutes in, but we just can't really see anything happening. Our team looks allergic to possessing the ball. Tim Parker was our most composed player last game, and he only lasted 30 minutes because of he only lasted 30 minutes because of the injury. But I just get really nervous. Like our midfield is really absent in the game. It looks like every time they get the ball, they want to release it as quickly as possible. And they also don't care where it goes. It could go to our team or it could not. And they just don't really care.
I think you guys mentioned it on the Mecca Moments when you guys did the recap of the Houston game, but I think the fact that we're so narrow and we have a lineup that invites us to play so narrow literally only fits us when we're pressing defensively because we're able to congest the middle of the field. But when we want to try or attempt to possess the ball, we need to get wide and we need to get width and we need to have space to do so. And I think that because we play so narrow that it's literally almost impossible to do. And I think you hit it right on the head, Dobes. Lowen used to be that person who would, like last year, he would kind of calm things down so we could break out and get the width. But I think because we've been playing so narrow, I also will say, I mentioned it to you guys before, like the center back partnership I've been watching it. I watched both games with that, and it's just the spacing and their ability not to pass off players and call them out when they're making the runs is really glaring to me, and I hope we figure it out as the year goes on.
Yeah, I was excited about the lineup too. Like I was really excited once I saw the lineup.
The goal for Real Salt Lake happened because of exactly what you said, Nick, where Nerwinski was in, didn't track the runner, he got turned, could have fouled him, didn't. Like it comes down to split decisions whenever you play defense and you have to just make that choice. Even going back to the United game of like Maguire's on the yellow, like you could have taken the yellow there, been out for the next game, but then we would have held the result, and just is what it is. So yeah, it's certainly frustrating. And yet again, we see that the Klaus and Sam partnership doesn't work in that first game, and then they didn't even get the chance to try it in the second game because as soon as Sam came on, it was for Klaus. And I think the fixture congestion is a little bit interesting. 2 weeks in, having 4 games, it's a lot, and so I think that is a little bit of the reason for the substitutions in the last game as early as they were. But it kind of makes me nervous going into this next game against Houston on Tuesday, where, we signed Michael Wenzel to a short-term deal at the center back position. That tells me that he's probably going to play on Tuesday night. We did the same thing with Bartlett last year, where we signed Bartlett to a short-term deal and it ended up being through the end of the season. But like we did that, and then Bartlett played the next 6, 7, 8 games. So I don't know. Maybe we see a world where.
Go ahead. Sorry, Wings was.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. I was just going to play devil's advocate for a super quick second. I agree with everything you guys said, but because we got scored on first, I I was only able to watch the second half, but I was interested to see how this team would respond when getting scored on first and being down. And so I will say, one good thing was that, we scored within 5 minutes of being scored on. Granted, that was
true.
due partially to Sam's moment of magic, but, Lewin assisted it, and, we didn't sit back and continue to play that we had the, based off listening to you guys and watching highlights based on how we did the first half. So one bright spot, we didn't sit back on our heels after getting scored on, and I was happy to see that.
Which I was scared would have been the first year thing from us, but the fact that we're still having that in year 2 makes me happy as well.
The last 15 minutes were the best. It was the only time we looked threatening the entire game. So I'm 100% credit where it's due on some things.
I also think RSL deserves a ton of credit.
They're good.
That midfield three and Luna slide in there as well. They were fantastic. The way that they could keep the ball. I know it's not in our DNA and the way we're going to play, but they have all 3 players in that midfield that could kind of interchange and move different spacing. And the way that they kept the ball and moved through their progressions was fantastic. And I do think they're going to do some damage this year in the league as well. So taking a point, obviously it's not what you want, but like you guys said, it's a good point, Wayne. Because devil's advocate is we are injury ridden. Lewin, Nielsen didn't get a preseason, and we did come out of there with a draw. We're still undefeated. So
we also have a great academy.
we came to the point where now a tie feels like a loss, which is high praise for a second year team, but we definitely want to see better results going into this next phase of games. I'm not even going to pretend I know what the next, if we move past this round of the CONCACAF Champions League, if we beat Houston and we go on, I have no idea what the schedule is going to be, but it is going to be something to watch, of playing a midweek game, playing a weekend game, and trying to fit that all in with an MLS schedule. And we're not normally used to that. So, I don't know. Does anyone want to give an early shout for prediction on Houston? 9:30 kickoff game, which what the fuck, but 9:30 on Tuesday night.
We need a Cardinal masterclass. That's all I'm going to say. We need him to get this right.
1-1 draw, and we advance through that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, here for it.
I would like to see Durkin, and I texted this to Hoovenhen. I do think, I know he's young. He's going to be needed eventually. But Kojima is one of the few guys throughout all of preseason that I saw could put his foot on the ball and be willing to play some progressive passes and slow it down. Durkin as well. I don't necessarily know if Cardinal has that trust in them yet, but I do think that that's where we need to get.
We're about to trust a super draft center back, though. So
here we go, baby.
Ain't no thing, baby. Ain't no thing. Well, gentlemen, that wraps for this week's episode of the Mecca of Banter podcast. I want to thank you all for listening. Again, shout out Manscaped, Mecca20 for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. And from all of us here at the Mecca, cheers.
Thanks, Flan.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Thanks for having me.
Hell of a
big shouts, Flan.
Yeah,
well done. Cheers, fellas.
Yeah.
Cheers.